All right, Mike Southon is on the line, and I have a bunch of slides here on some really interesting work that he and his club are doing. So, Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you. And I'll just warn everybody, everyone's going to want to make one of these carousel horses.
Our carousel, I did have an article in the Ontario Wood Carver in winter 2021 explaining what our club has been doing. You can see along the top of those rounding boards, there's each panel, there's 16 panels, there's 2 dragons and some other stuff, mirrors all the way around. Turned out that as they got into this major restoration project on this carousel, everything on it that was wooden was pretty much destroyed. So the job became to recarve everything, copying everything historically accurately. So we've been doing that for several years now with the Thunder Bay Carvers. And that's involved about 30 members and roughly 300 pieces that have been carved. And so we pretty much have recarved everything. Unfortunately, did not get to do anything on the horses. There's some 28 horses on the carousel and 2 chariots. And when they got into doing the horses, they found out that everything was done with lead paint because this was built about 1919. And so to restore them and strip them down to start that process was a pretty serious environmental hazard, and they needed hazmat suits and a big professional shop and so on. So they had the horses redone, the ones that needed to be redone, which was probably more than half of them, by a professional. Each one now valued at approximately $20,000, by the way. And the reason for that is that this carousel is now one of only 3 left in the world. The Parker Company made various carousels, including permanent carousels. But this was meant to be a traveling carnival kind of carousel. And so it traveled and so on. And unfortunately for the owner in 1934, they ran out of money, went bankrupt, and sold the whole carousel for under $600 to the city of then Fort William. So it's remained in the city of Thunder Bay's possession since. So anyway, we carved all this stuff for it, and we have recently, I'll show you at the very last slide, our latest thing we've been working on. But it always was in my heart that, boy, I sure wish I had a chance to do something on those horses. And I thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we try to do miniature horses based on the original designs? So next slide, please. So you can see this is one of the horses that I've been working on. This is an artistic drawing done. The Carousel Committee, the city, hired an expert from Chicago to, Lisa Parr is her name, to make sure we were being historically accurate in doing everything and advising when it came after restoration of the horses, when it came to painting them, that they'd be accurately done. Fortunately, she was able to access the Parker archives, which had color plates for all the individual horses. But she carefully, meticulously did a drawing, and this is one side of this particular horse that is shown on the lower plastic pattern, which we ended up making, on the one side of the horse. But you can notice this is the very same horse. On the top picture, this is one of Lisa's pictures. The other side of carousel horse is often different. The side to be facing the audience, as it were, is the romance side, and that side is different. So you need an image of both. So we actually have 2 color plates for every horse on the carousel. So for us to be able to do these and try to do them exactly like the originals, but in miniature, we needed these drawings, which we started with, and a lot of us expanded them to 150% of the original drawings on just on photocopiers. So next slide. However, we realized that that really wasn't enough. So having those illustrations, which were good, but not necessarily perfect, if we wanted to copy the horses exactly, we needed to find out, after we had these volunteers that said, yes, I'll carve a horse. Now we're about a dozen of us. They would need photographs of the horses. So we got permission from the city to go out to the facility where they're stored. It's already been taken down. This was a traveling carousel, so it was put up and taken down every season. And after it became part of the city property, they continued to do that because it's an outdoor carousel and they didn't want the weather to wreck it. So every fall they take it in and next spring put it back out again. So anyway, so we started doing photographs of all of the horses and then sharing these images with the people carving. So we had to keep track of who was carving which horse and make sure we had lots and lots of images of every little part of every horse from every angle we could think of.
I can do it for you. Don't wait.
Next, someone needs to mute. Yeah,
Thank
next
you.
slide. Thank you. Okay, now this is one of our members, Jacques Lang, who's on the call.
So big.
Someone needs to get their kids quiet. Someone needs to mute. This is Jacques, and he's taken a lot of effort with this project. He's actually carving 3 of these horses himself, 3 different ones. And but he's taken a lot of time. He's very good technically, and so he's got all these images, and we can put them on flash drives and share them online and so on. So it's been important to get all the images to the individual carvers who have chosen individual horses. So next picture. So this is how we basically started. The block is about 12 inches long, roughly 6 to 8 inches high, depending on the design of the horse, and about 2 1/4 inches thick. These horses are around 22% of the size of the real horses. So when we use that 22%, mathematically, you can get parts pretty close to being 100% accurate. So we used a combination of the patterns, and then we did, as you can see, side cutouts. This one is horse 7B, which is my first horse. That's an inside row horse. It's got a flying mane, as you can see from that plastic template behind there. And in most cases, we had it in about 8 parts, including the pole that's going to go up the middle. Let's see. Okay, so you can see we bandsawed them out, scroll sawed the smaller pieces like the front and back feet. And of course, we were paying attention to grain direction. Pretty important to have that right so that things wouldn't break later because it gets pretty delicate in some parts. Next. Now here I am. This is the head of 7B, upside down in my vise, and you will recognize this hats on the head kind of approach, which I learned through True North. I just used a Laurentia pencil crayon, black, and scribbled all over the bottom. And then that's the method where you have it doweled, so it's going to stay centered. So this is to put the head and neck onto the body. I cut that along a line of the top of the chest strap of the horse. And so that would be the side where I would stick that head on there and then bang it with a mallet on the top. And then everything that transferred below, then you've seen that process before when you're putting hats on caricature heads. So that was another benefit from the True North bunch. Next. Here's one of our members, Jim's. His horse is a little different. It's kind of leaping forward. Most of these horses are very action-oriented, the way they're designed. And so he's got, you see just the beginning there, it's the body's blocked, not showing his feet and so on, his tail. Head's there, it's running with the grain, going, it'd be from more left to right. There's his illustration of that side of the horse. And then one of the things I was suggesting to my group is, you see those fine lines on there? That is sort of the outside bulging kind of shape of each part, from the chest to the center of the leg to around the butt and so on and so forth and up toward the neck. And it helps keep things in place and kind of symmetrical. Next. Here's another one. This is Val's horse, a little further along. She's got a fair amount done on the head. She did a little different process, which I actually wish I had done. When you have the head going down like that, the grain on that head and neck is going up, of course, from say the nose up and from the neck upward. And that enables you really to do one piece. I kind of regret on the second horse I'm working on, I didn't do that. I went and cut it off, and I've been having more trouble getting that head turned because if you look in the upper illustration, that's a photograph of a real horse. And the horse's head is turned to the right in that case. And so that turning of the head thing reminds me of doing caricatures and turning the heads on the figures and so on. So that was that. And you notice here, because this was a carousel built in Leavenworth, Kansas, there's that American flag on there. So, okay, next. This is an interesting slide. This is one of Jacques' horses, his first one he's working on. And I wanted to highlight a very clever jig he's made, like a holder here. And he can be hands-free, you know, have both hands on the tools and hold his horse in any position he wishes. He uses that a lot for doing these horses. He's doing a little different. He's using the original designs as done by Lisa Parr at that size, whereas the rest of us are doing 150% of that size. But he's going to tackle 3 horses, and he's on tonight if he wants to say anything at some point there. Next. Now, of course, we're suddenly jumping ahead a lot. We have a coordinator of the Carousel group as far as our club is concerned. His name is Terry Herdick. And Terry has been you know, not to praise it, make a phrase here, a workhorse. He has already completed 3 carousel horses in a matter of a couple of months. It's quite amazing. And this is one of his horses. It still has a little more to do. That would be the non-romance side. And he's got it on just a temporary base. You notice we've had to drill the holes while you know, through for the pole, which are 3/8 inch. Before they were out of the block shape, because otherwise it's hard to keep it square and make sure that that pole is going to go through properly. So that's one of his 3 horses he's done. Next. This is another horse I wanted to show you, which is not a Chippewa Park horse. Rick Dowswell, who has been instrumental using his garage and everything for a lot of the work we've done on the real carousel, decided he has a book called Carving Carousel Carvings by H.L. Marlowe. And it mostly follows Denzel design horses. And so there was instructions on how to build your own carousel horse. And so he did this. And if you look really closely on this, there's actually 64 pieces in that horse. The horse is about the same size as the rest of ours. It's not a Chippewa carousel horse, but extremely detailed and amazingly complex to cut out properly. So everything was laminated and glued together. And as I say, a total of 64 pieces have gone into that. Very impressive work. However, he's already told us he ain't doing that again. He'll probably go to the 8 pieces that we used if he does another one. Now, this is a composite picture taken up. We have a second carving group out at a little village called Kekabeka, out of town there, and it's a senior center. And this is 3 of our horses, 2 of Terry's in the front. You see, one is carved, not painted. The other one is painted, all on acrylics. And the one at the back is my horse 7B before it was painted. And that one again is just on a temporary base, just with a peg through the bottom to hold him in place, so I can sort of see how he's going to be positioned. And so, you know, that one is just one where a few of us were getting them done. The next slide. This is Larry Salmon's horse, first of 2 horses. A couple of things to point out. The poles for a lot of the carousel miniatures you see are spiral gold poles. However, and some people have chosen to do that. Others of us are just copying what the Chippewa Park Carousel, they've got black poles. We've topped them with various balls on the top, but so we've just copied that. The reins are leather. And then there's something that doesn't show up too well on there, but on the next picture, this is my horse, first horse finished. So that's 7B. And you just see the silver horseshoes on the bottom. This was Larry's little brainchild. He said, let's make real horseshoes because the Chippewa Park have these horseshoes on the bottom. And if you see them, they're stamped. Oh, look back at the previous one. Yes. So there's a real horse, carousel horse. And you see on the bottom, it says C.W. Parker, Leavenworth, KAN for Kansas. And it has 4, actually they've changed to Robertson screws wisely. And even the bottom of the hoof is carved. So every little thing that you see on there is something we tried to duplicate as we're making these horses. So if we look at, for example, the top part of the hoof, I'm sure I don't know the names of these parts of the horse, but you see there's a few little lines of texture there, you might say, I guess simulating hair hanging down at the back there. And there's a cleft in the foot at the bottom. All of those little details we tried to get in there by following first the pattern and second all the detail pictures. Next. So now these are our attempt at reproducing the horses. Larry figured out an idea of how to make them out of aluminum. And you can actually cut them on a scroll saw. I was rather surprised to find. Well, you got to kind of hold them down really, really firmly. And then we used tiny nails that one of the other horse carvers did, or found rather. She found these tiny little tacks. And so the little nails are in the exact same place as they would be on the real horses. And then in these ones, I accidentally made the horseshoes too big, but then I realized, oh, they have plates on them. So I just bent them back and it actually then fit the bottom of the shoes. So that was kind of fun. Now the next one, this is just a little bit of a close-up. One of the challenges on the real horses was a lot of the jewels that decorate the horses were missing over the many, many years. As I say, it's over 100 years old. And where were they going to get them? And our horse painter and the carousel painter, Linda Siskar, a super expert in carousels herself, club member and carousel committee member. She finally, she and others, I think they sourced them out of Germany to find the actual jewels. For us, however, of course, we weren't going to get professional jewels. And it turned out, if you can go to Michael's or even Dollarama, dollar store, they have cards full of these little tiny jewels. They're probably like plastic or whatever. And if you find enough of them, they're very cheap. You can get a whole sheet full for a couple of bucks. And then it's the idea of trying to match the size and color. We noticed on the Parker Carousel, most of the horses' jewels matched the background color, whatever that background color was. So that's what we did. So these are inset. And then the other little detail there is there's a little we used a little piece of metal in the mouth. It's not shown here, but on the few slides before on the horse, we put a little bit in his mouth, and then there's a leather rein that's on there because the horses at Chippewa have those as well. Finally, the last shot is our bigger of the 2 chariots. So this is back to the real carousel. This is bringing you up to date from the article I wrote for the Ontario Wood Carver. Just last week, a team of the group got together and took our carvings that Linda had painted and screwed them through the chariots that we made. This is the bigger chariot. There's a smaller, very sort of a similar design chariot with the dragon that is a handicapped accessible chariot. So this is really essentially bench seating for riders that are not going on the horses. So that's our latest step. And the next part is going to be a big project. We're assisting the city workers. We're steam bending large ropes. You see a rope at the bottom of the chariot. That one's pretty easy because it's flat. Although those were hand carved too, well, lathe carved. In that case, the other ones are really long, 9 feet or so, and they have to be bent to fit the rounding boards. So one of our members built a steamer, and we've got a massive project of attaching these to these 16 rounding boards across the top and screwing all of the carvings, the mirrors and dragons and all the rest of the stuff up there, the flowers and various things. So anyway, that's our continuing project with the Chippewa Carousel.